let's call the meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. No, it's my not loading for some reason. Does it? Okay, I'm going to ask for or request a moment of silence for Howard West, a 1976 graduate of the North Syracuse Central School District. Joan Ammerman, a 1949 graduate of the North Syracuse Central School District. Carla Gianni, a graduate of the North Syracuse Central School District. Thomas J. Hunter, a 1970 graduate of the North Syracuse Central School District. And Catherine A. Fisher, a graduate of the North Syracuse Central School District. Okay, we will go into presentations. We'll start with Roxborough Road Elementary School's BBT presentation.
To the board, our superintendent, and to our guest here. I'm Jackie Grace. I'm the principal of Roxborough Road Elementary School. This evening is Brian Knoll, who is one of our fourth grade teachers and our BPT chair. Welcome you to our presentation for Roxborough Road Elementary. Welcome and come on in.
Now, Jackie, before, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I see you have several staff members. Do you mind introducing some of the staff members that are here also behind you?
Absolutely. Would staff from Roxborough Road, would you please stand?
It's good to see you guys here also, because a lot of times there's BBT presentations and it's just the principal and the chairperson and that's it. So that's why I like to point you guys out. I'm not trying to embarrass you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Speaking of our school, our Roxborough Road profile, we have roughly 479 to 480 K4 students. We have 25 classrooms and 66 staff. We have 61 to 65% free and reduced lunches, 94% attendance, and we have a very high transit population. Generally, we get about 100 new students in and 100 new students leave us. So 15 to 20% yearly student turnover. So also our AIS program, Academic Intervention Services, we have 140 students in the reading program and 38 in our math. And of course, we are certainly congruent with our student is what our focus is, and that our college and careers is definitely what we make sure that our students are focused on and learning. When you come into our building, you'll see lots of diplomas around our schools, pennant colleges. First day of school, I had a cap and gown on, basically implanting into the minds of our students that we are going to go to college, we are going to have a career, we're going to be successful people. And our district goals, we certainly want our culture and our environment to be one that is supportive, one in which we are collaborating, our staff working together, realizing that when we work together, that it actually helps and supports each and every one of us. And we want to make sure that our environment is a safe one. Our Roxelle vision statement is definitely congruent with our district goals. We make sure that our students are safe, that the environment is positive and it's caring. We want to make sure that our curriculum is rigorous and relevant and engaging. Really, truly work very hard with our community. Our ultimate goal is to empower our students, help them to want to be lifelong learners. Our building goals are to increase student reading in terms of various strategies that we implement to make sure that our students are growing and developing in the. Our second goal is to increase parent involvement. We work with our parents. We are looking to build better relationships with our outside community. Our third goal is to have skills in terms of fluency again, problem solving. So we have daily fluency practice. We are working in our curriculum or in our instruction to make sure that our students solve multi-step word problems. And listed are various strategies that we try to implement at Roxborough Road in ELA and in math. One of our focuses in ELA is guided reading and informational text, and basically trying to get our students at school and at home. In math, we really work on helping our students learn their math facts and for all around us, and it's best if they know math and what it is math brings to their life. This year, Roxborough Road is on a LAP plan, which is a local. New York State has looked at our data, our third and fourth grade data, 2010, 2011, 2013, in ELA and in math, and all of our third and fourth grade students low, particularly in ELA. And so we did not make our annual yearly progress. So what we had to do was look at various areas of review and diagnose ourselves. So in terms of our school leadership and our practices and the decisions that we make, we realized that we had to improve and have to increasingly support our staff, our families, our community. Some of the things that we're doing is by having meetings, making sure that our websites are up to date and current, text blasts and our newsletters. We're looking at our data. Our ELA, again, is what we're focusing on with our lab plan. So accelerated reader program is a computer-based program that we will be implementing soon. We're fortunate to have a community partnership with Syracuse University. First, second, and third grades are going to get students that come in and out with small groups, and our fourth grade will have practicum students that will um, coming in 3 to 4 times a week, helping in our classroom. So we're very fortunate to have this partnership with Syracuse University. And with our ELA data, we realized that we needed to do more things with our instruction. So creating smaller groups with differentiated instruction and common formative assessments are definitely some of the things that we want to focus on. And we're very fortunate enough that we have money that gotten through a grant and written by Don Chinsky and Donna Marie Norton. So we're fortunate to have that grant. It forces us to have professional development. Tomorrow and Wednesday, we will have coming to us with 2 full days of professional development. We're very excited about that. She will come to us Tuesday and Wednesday, and then again she comes back. Very fortunate for that. Other areas of review, our teacher practices and decisions and development and support, we also looked at and realized that we needed to work more collaboratively with our lesson plans and units. Also needed to need to improve our formative and summative assessments. So within our school, we have professional learning communities where our teachers get together every Friday or whenever it is that and talk about student data and how it is that we can help our students better and basically performing better. We also are looking at our response to intervention, and making sure that each and every student, small group instruction, definitely we realize that we have to group our students according to their needs. And some of the workshops that we are doing to help ourselves with our ELA focus are close reads, student engagement, high-level questioning. Other areas of focus is that we certainly want to look at developmental health. We had Dr. Stephen Glatt come and speak to us about mental health and what that means and how it is that we can support students with those needs. And some of the ongoing learning that we're doing in our building is we are talking how it is that we have to engage our students with those challenges. So we've been doing quite a number of book studies and have gone to some conferences helps to support. And our other area of review, one of the things that we do is we work really hard to build. We have to focus more with those relationships. We use our parent-teacher group, our PTG. One of the things that we know we have to do is have to help our parents as much as possible so that there's consistency what it is our students are getting. So we know that there are certain trainings that are necessary, and we've planned for homework workshops, parenting workshops, ELA and math night, and health and wellness. And we also have a Title I parent involvement plan in which we are finding different ways or planning different ways in which. And now, Brian will share with us our data.
The graphs you're going to see, the data was taken from Ames Web. We looked at the graphs that they provided, and because they are based on targets given for each period of the year, they looked very similar. So what we did is we looked at the target data for the end of the spring for the spring testing time, and saw how many kids were performing at that level in the fall and how many students were performing at that. So in kindergarten, it is expected that 33 or more letters or sounds will be able to be identified by kindergarten students. You see in the fall we had 0% making it, and as of 50% of the students were able to reach. Kindergarten math, they are able to count 70 or more numbers in a minute. In the fall, 3% of them were able to do it in 7%. And this data was from 2014-15 school year. Going on to first grade, first grade they read nonsense words, basically looking at decoding, and it's expected that 53 more words would be identified by the students by the end of the spring. And 15% of the students in the fall were able to reach that level, and in the spring, 63% of the students were able to reach. In math, they are expected to do 37% or 30% or more correct math computations of a first grade level, adding and subtracting. 3% were able to do it in the fall. 71% were able to do 37 correct responses by the spring. Second grade, the expected for reading is expected to be 92 or more words in a curriculum-based measure. So it's 92 words per minute. You can see that 8% of the students were able to read at 92 words or more, and in the spring it's at 43%. For calculations, 38 or more correct computations are expected at a second grade level, and you can see 2% were able to do it in the fall, but in the spring 63% were able to reach that. Third grade, again, up 119 or more words in a third grade based reading level. 13% were able to accomplish that in the fall. 49% were able to accomplish that. Third grade, 53 computations or more. In the fall, only 1% at a third grade level, and 50% level by the spring. Fourth grade, it's 136 or more words correct in curriculum-based measurement. 14% were able to accomplish that in the fall, 38%. Fourth grade, percentage of students with a 55 or more correct math computations at a fourth grade level, 1% were able to accomplish that in the fall, 54 were able to accomplish that in this. Well, if you go back and look at these numbers, there's a direct correlation with the number of students that are able to accomplish that each level. And it kind of indicates that our students are below when they come to us, and we are getting them to grow, but are they reaching what is expected of them at this level? Not. And this is shown on the third and fourth grade data. State tests last year. Third grade's on the left, fourth grade's on the right. We had passing grade, 13%. Math, a little bit better, 33% in the math. Now this next graph kind of says it all. Our students, this graph is based on what is expected for a 1 year's growth, from where they start to where they end up, based on Fontes and Pinnell. Based on what is expected for 1 year's growth, from where they started to where they end up, we have 98% of our students growth. The point that should be recognized is that's also they're below grade to start with. So the tasks. Next slide is going to talk about one of the big things that we've accomplished, one of our major accomplishments at our building. Farrar is going to talk about that.
In the district. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Let's switch chairs.
Sure. Thanks. Roxborough is fortunate enough to be the only PBIS building in the district. In our second year of implementation, have had tremendous support by our administrator, as well as every staff member in the building, starting with the bus drivers in the morning, secretaries in the office, to every teacher and staff member that has contacts with our kids. We've all received training as to what PBIS is, and we've all spent time training our students to let them know what the behavior expectations are in our building. And we have some really interesting things. I'm glad that we're here tonight to discuss it because it is our second year, so we can compare some information from last year, our first year of implementation. And this I find to be a very exciting graph because it shows the number of referrals that we've had for our students, green being last year and blue being this year, at September through January. And you can see a tremendous decrease in the number of office referrals. And I just think that's a tremendous accomplishment, and it just shows that our students have been working so hard and our staff has been working so hard to learn and expectations, and it really does make a difference. And as we all know, when our behaviors are improved, that gives us more time to learn and to teach in the classroom. Next graph is just from this year, and it breaks down what our referrals have been based on. And our primary area of concern there on the right would be defiance within the classroom setting. But it's a graph like this that lets us know where our areas of concern are to address it better with staff and with students. And so at our next staff meeting, we have some ideas we would like to share with staff, direction we want to go in to help with the defiance and the class disruptions. The M in front of the behaviors indicates minor behavior, and then if there isn't an M, it indicates that it's a more severe. We have our behaviors broken down between major and minor. And I have to recognize our PTG for contributing funding to allow us to have this Swiss program that gives us these beautiful graphs, and the building secretaries who input all of the data information. Now this is reflective of RTI type information, and with academics, we're looking for 80% in the green. But if you compare, actually this chart doesn't compare last year to this year, but compared to last year, we had about 11% of our students in the red. And at this point in this year, we have about 2% of our students in the red. And red reflects having 6 or more office referrals. Most of our students have had no referrals or 1. And then, in the middle there, we have a few who have had 2 to 5 referrals at this point in the year. So I think it really shows that our kids are learning the expectations in their the way that we need them to in the school setting to be safe and to learn.
One of our favorite quotes here, because for us at Rochester, come to us educated, strong, healthy, makes our job easier. If not come to us from strong, makes our job more important. That's what we feel at Roxborough. We have a very important job to do. Getting better.
Any questions from anybody?
I just have a comment and some questions. I just want to thank you for all you're doing. You have some real challenges ahead of you. I'm sure all of us are very concerned about, the statistics. I was just wondering about children's opting out of the test. You have that issue at your school as well. Is that
Yes,
will affect the data that we've seen?
Basically, one of the things that we do know is that we want to get our students to reading more, And so we have a program that helps or supports the reading at home. So I think it's about what they read and
I agree. What kind of participation are you seeing with that program that you're offering with the parents?
we're not getting as much, but we actually have planned on how important it is that they support reading at home, that they so we know that it's not only LA, but with all the subjects.
I was very excited to hear about the SU students coming to help. Is this the first year that they've been doing that?
Yes, it is. We're very excited, and SU exciting thing is that the students are also participating in our with working with students. Exciting partnership that we have there.
Great. Thank you.
I just had a couple of things. It looks like your staff is doing a great job between fall and spring. Your students drop back off, coming back in through the spring, transitioning back in through the fall. Is there anything we're doing to help parents over the summer, especially with the reading piece of that?
Well, we do. The district has. I really wish we did have. That they were reading those kinds of things. But those are things that we're going to be. How is it that we can? But we want to do more. We want them to love learning and.
Last 3 years, also have a summer program they've ran last 2 summers, and third and fourth grade, or incoming third. I also do it at the middle school, and I worked drop-off was not as significant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, we would like to welcome Lakeshore Elementary.
Hello, good evening, Board of Education, Superintendent Speech. Thank you for inviting us here tonight to share our progress throughout the year so far. We're kind of at the midway point, so it's a great time to check in and take stock of where we are and where we're going in the next few months. I'm Chris Lay, Acting Principal.
I'm Tina Chesky, and I'm one of the reading in our elementary. Provide academic interventions in both math for grades K through 4.
Our first slide here is just a kind of profile Lakeshore. We haven't seen a whole lot of change from last year to this year. We have 535 students, 67 staff, 29 K through 4 classrooms, 3 special education classrooms. We're looking at about a 22% free and reduced lunch rate, and 18% of our student population are students with disabilities. The two district goals that we'll be addressing mostly tonight are the first two. The first one, increase student achievement to prepare our students for college and careers in a global economy. The emphasis at Lakeshore is primarily in literacy as well as basic mathematics, foundational math. And the second goal is to foster a supportive culture and environment amongst all the members of our school community. This includes reaching out to parents, working across the building, teachers, teaching assistants, administration working together, as well as social workers, school psychologists, and our counselors. So the two things that we're going to really focus in on tonight are those two goals of student achievement and supportive culture and environment amongst our community. The two academic goals, the overarching academic goals that we're going to investigate with you tonight, are in the areas of ELA and math. Our first ELA goal is student performance will improve 3% across the year in the areas of fluency and letter-sound relationship, and 90% of our students will make at least 1 year's growth according to their performance on the F&P benchmark system. The overarching goal in math is student performance will improve 3% across the year in the area of math computation and oral counting.
Are some of the strategies? Our grades 1 and 3 right now have implemented LCs, and through those they have been able to blocks in the areas of math. Also wanted to mention we've been using Hawkins within the district, and I have noticed a significant difference in the students who come to see me. We've had the same writing journals, reading notebooks for probably the last 10 years that we've used for our primary students, and I'm happy to say that there's not enough room in those books for their writing. 1 page is not enough, so that's. I have a lot of teachers that are using the Daily 5 in the cafe, and a lot of our teachers have been really diving into the My Math online components. Have been implemented in grades 1 and 3. I also wanted to add this year something new is to have Google Docs that we didn't have in the past. Grade levels are sharing assessments. We could look at them across the board. AIS. A neater way for us all to share information. We also have quarterly congruency meetings held between AIS classroom teachers, done right after benchmarking, and it really helps us have those. What students need more support? What can we do to support those students? Am I servicing the students that So we took a different approach with our data this year. We are looking at triangles mean. I love these triangles for my own purpose because it tells me if what I'm doing is working in the classroom. The area in green is basically your tier 1, your core classroom, and throughout the year we want that green as large as it can. These are the students are most in need of intervention, and a lot of the students that fall in this area do receive interventions 4 to 5 days a week in a small group of about 3 students. Then we have those students in yellow. Some of them do provide outside interventions. Some are receiving interventions from the classroom teacher. As I said before, from fall to spring, we're looking to see that that green stands in that red area. So if I'm providing academic interventions, I'm looking at the area in red, seeing are my interventions working? If that oral counting and letter sounds would.
And if you look at the red triangle in oral counting, it's gone from 20% tier 3 to 10%. So we've already cut it in half since September. And we have a similar phenomenon in the second group, the letter sounds. We've gone from 37% down to 17%, and that's been in about 5 months worth of work So we're happy to see the progress that we've already made thus far.
To add, some interventions that kindergarten does, bagged books that they send home. Each student has a bag. Bring it home and read it to their automaticity with letter-sound relationship, and have another assessment that they give, which is the BAS, and we find that many of the students can identify letters on that assessment. However, the Ames Web assessment is timed, so it's how many letters. As of the time that we put this presentation together, we did not have all of our winter data available. For first grade math, we did not have that, but you can see that in the fall, we had 70% of our first graders target for math computation. Coding is nonsense word. That is basically how students can decode bat, bed, so. And we see that red area. Last year, we did have 93% of our first graders made one. Some interventions that first grade is working on. They do have their RTI groups for math, and they do call it win time. It's what I need, and the students have been doing this for a couple months. They are very excited because they get to go and visit classrooms. They're not with their teacher all of the time, so they do get to see on what each student needs. And they are working on Daily 5 and Cafe as well as the bagged books. Second grade, you can see that 70% came in target. Instead of decoding, they are working on reading fluent. Fall, right now we have 65. Second grade, again, they also participate in the bag. Have strategy bookmarks, something that our second grade have strategies to kind of have consistency throughout the grade level. And this kind of spread like wildfire in our building. We picked it up for our AIS students because we wanted to have first grade then also picked up bookmarks. They wanted to teach it too. So when I'm working with a student, I can automatically know they want to use chunks. Five different kind of quirky ideas to help remember what you need to do when you get.
And one of the really neat things about it is being in all those classrooms, observing students. It's great to see them introduce these concepts in kindergarten. It's eagle eye is one of their focus, is just finding those words or those sounds. And then it's neat to go up to the grades first, second, third, and fourth and see them using these in a much more sophisticated way as they progress throughout Lake Shore. So it's really a wonderful program.
And something else that our first and second grade teachers do also an F&P assessment mid-year so that they can really see where all of the students are falling within the classrooms. This is something that they're doing on their own time within the math computation. You can see that in the fall, 71% have met the target. In the spring, we're hoping to have. And reading fluency, we're looking at also for third grade. Grade right now has a math PLC, and they are in the process of working on math RTI groups. AIS teachers are also involved in that process. Accordingly, based on what they need, we're using the Google Docs to look at assessments and what each student needs to. And that's also helped us to create common materials across. Fourth grade. You can see from Fall to winter, the green area stayed the same, but we were able to shrink that red area, and also in the area. That fourth grade is working on, they're really focusing on strategies. They do something called DTQH2R. I don't know if you're familiar. It helps them really participate in close reading, looking at passages, being able to. In math, they're working on automaticity. They realize that problem solving is important, but if students can quickly identify, 4 times 3 is 12, they don't have to go and draw circles, and they're able to get through a word problem quicker just by having that. Our state math test results. So you can kind of follow the cohort. Third grade, that year they were in third grade, 24%. Then the following year, for the math test in third grade, the following year they jumped to 50%. Is promising for us because we're able to follow that cohort and seeing that they are making those gains consistent.
Along with that, the ELA test results, again, if you look in the first column, you'll see 18% of our third graders made that mark in 2013, but that jumped all the way up to 27% in 2014. And our third graders, too, you can see 38% made it in 2014, and that moved up to 43% in 2015. So we've seen quite a bit of growth, and I'm really curious to see how things go this year with the RTA blocks, as well as some of the interventions our teachers are using. It'll be really interesting to see if we continue to make that. Confident we will. In addition to that, one of our goals this year has been kind of to raise our Lakeshore Road STEM profile. We're doing a lot of different things in the building to get hands on science. And what I mean by that is we talk a lot about science in terms of conceptual science, but we also want to see applied science. Right now, some of our fourth graders are working on an egg drop challenge for the science fair, where they're using a model developed at Northeastern University and figuring out how to drop an egg from a 17.5-foot level from our gym ceiling, actually, and using a series of small things like paper clips and balloons and all that good stuff. They get a budget of $100 to spend. They have to prioritize how they spend that money, and they're devising contraptions to basically take the blow and the impact of the egg dropping on the floor. One of our physics teachers, Brad Rainier, is coming down Wednesday to tutor them on the forces that will impact their eggs, and we'll see how that goes. Another one is Mrs. Kaiser and Mrs. Osborne have a grade 3 and 4 math and computer club. They're up and running now. Mrs. Condork, one of our fourth grade teachers, she's using a program called Scratch. It's developed at MIT, and we've been piloting that on Fridays after school, and we've got 2 weeks so far, and the kids are learning it extremely quickly. Mrs. Barrett is piloting the grade 3 Chromebooks. She only has a few more weeks left. I was in her classroom just the other day, and she was showing all the wonderful things she's doing in terms of student writing. We did team up with BOCES, and we brought robots. This little girl here has one of them in her class, or in her hand. That's Spheros, and you can program Spheros using an iPad. We're looking into possibly expanding that into next year and actually using the robots to help us with learning math in terms of distance and measuring and angles and such. So they're here. The robots are with us until the end of January, and then they have to move on to their next school. But the students have done an outstanding job working with the robots. The next thing we're looking at in spring is teaming up with the MOST and the our PTO, and developing a rocket club where students can build their rockets. And there's a challenge associated with the MOST, I believe, in late May, early June. So we're going to be that's our next step once the weather breaks. And looking further down the road, we're looking at developing a first LEGO League Junior Challenge team for our younger students. That's an ongoing annual process, so we would probably have to get started exactly at the first couple of weeks of school, and it runs throughout the year, and they do the actual competition in late spring. So that's a year-long event. So these are some of the things that we're doing to really raise the profile in science, technology, engineering, and math. One of the other goals we had, we talked about early in the year, was just changing the climate and culture of the building. A lot of what we do is collaborative problem solving. We sit together, we look at whether it be a challenging situation with a student, whether it be looking at the schedule. We invite everybody to sit down, or the people that are interested in down, and look at the ideas that are available, look at the options we have, and move forward. And then if we're still struggling, we meet again until we figure it out. We have a school social committee that's put forth a lot of great activities already. Our next one is actually Saturday night, where we'll have our school delayed holiday party. But it's great to see people wanting to socialize on the weekends and after school. We have a character ed program. We've got, so far we've had 2 marking periods where we've identified traits and acknowledged and recognized students. Our last Cookies for Character celebration was Friday. We had 46 Lakeshore Road Elementary students, and we recognized each student was acknowledged with their certificate as well as a window sticker. Their pictures will be the pictures you see when you first enter the building. Those are put right up on the bulletin board we had fastened to our front wall. We sat together as well, and one of the things was a concern for many of the staff members was strengthening the emergency response system. We worked together. We purchased communicators. When our teachers head out to the playground, they all have reflective vests as well as a communicator. So we have communicators now in every area of the building that we think is necessary. And it eases communication as well as allows us to coordinate things. And a lot of times it's simple things like a child missed the bus, hold that bus. We can send a radio right to the office. They'll send or right to the person on the circle to hold the bus. So we've gotten really much better at looking at our emergency response system. And improving communication within the building and the community. Once a week, I send a memo as a principal to all of the staff members in the building, just updates on things during the week, what's going on within the building, outside the building, if there's been any concerns with staff members. That goes out usually every Sunday afternoon. We also have a school Facebook page where I probably post 3 or 4 times a week. I think as of this morning, we had 169 families that were on that page. It's just a way to share the things that we do every day in the building, whether it be the boys shootout on Friday night or whether it be the beach dance party. But it's a great way to share information very quickly in a medium that people have access to more readily than the monthly newsletter. Creating school spirit days, building wide initiatives. This is probably one of the most popular things with our students. About every 4 or 5 weeks, we have a school spirit day. Last Friday's was SU. Our next one is Dress for Success. And I think the last one we have for the winter is Dress Like Your Friends. And it's great. It's just usually on a Friday. The kids get to dress up in a certain way, and they really enjoy it. And it brings some good positive energy to the building. The last thing we have here is we've started a 4th grade student council who's getting out in the community doing a variety of activities to support the SPCA, the food bank and such. And we also have a fall runners club. We had over, I want to say about 200 3rd and 4th grade students do it. Collectively, they ran over 1,400 miles in the fall around the track. And we actually had one of the junior high teachers, Mr. Van Beveren, who was gracious enough to build us a great sign that we put right by our track. And the picture that we opened the presentation has the sign in the background. So these are just some of the things we're doing, and really, really trying to make Lakeshore Road a great place to be and to have an impact on the students and the families who send their children to school there every day. Okay. Thank you very much.
Just have two comment, one question, one comment. You mentioned the strategies on the bookmark. Is that something that goes home in those reading bags? Just because as a parent myself, there are times where I struggle with trying to help my child who's struggling, where my wife, went to school for literacy, I didn't. So I get frustrated, she helps him through it. So, is that something that goes home with that bag, or is that something they just use in the classroom?
Question, and I am not a classroom teacher, so I'm not sure if every classroom teacher does include them within the bag. I know for the students that I work with, it's something that I do share with the parents during parent-teacher conference. Most of the teachers do, but I can't 100% I can guarantee that that's what they do.
It just seems like it would be a good tool for a parent to have. And then, I just want to comment on the fact that I like that you put climate and culture in your BBT presentation because, to me, I'm speaking for me, not the rest of the board, that is, one of the most important things that I see as a board member. I like to walk into a building and feel welcomed myself, as well as know that the people around me feel welcomed. And that might not necessarily be just parents, but also staff members that work in the building, so on and so forth. So it's good to see that, and I'm glad to see that it's a atmosphere right now. Thank you.
Just one quick question, similar to what Mrs. Scanlon asked before. In the grade 3-4 ELA math data, test refusals, you got a rough idea what you had there, and do you think there was an impact?
I believe it's about 25%, maybe up to 33%, depending on but I would say it's probably right about 25% refusals, and it's hard to say what the impact is without going back and looking at how the kids did other things. The trouble is, with third grade, we don't have a previous year's test to look at, see how they performed, if they're a level 2 or level 3. But it seemed to me that they're probably across the board.
I just want to compliment your PPT on the approach you took to this presentation. You have very clear, measurable goals. You showed how they're aligned to the district goals. And you also took Ames web testing and state testing and used the data from that, again, setting measurable goals for the future, and talked about strategies in terms of how you're going to get there. So I think you did a great job. Thank you.
Now, a much more exciting presentation, right? Our budget update.
Good evening. I have a very brief presentation tonight regarding the budget process. The budget process has begun, and the first major milestone in that process is listening to the governor's proposal about the budget, and that was done about a week and a half ago. And we've had a chance to digest some of that information, and we wanted to share that with the board and community tonight. So a couple of highlights. The governor is proposing a reduction in the GEA, not an elimination of it, and we were very disappointed about that. He's proposing that the GEA be reduced by $751,000 for us, which would be a reduction from $1.9 million to $1.2 million. I'll talk more about that in a moment. The governor's office also indicated that there'd be, if some of the published materials talked about a $1.1 million increase for North Syracuse, or about 2.7%. This represents the increase in foundation aid plus the reduction in the GEA. And again, I've got a slide that goes into a little more detail. The governor's budget proposal once again talks about, community schools, charter schools, Empire State Pre-Kindergarten Grant Program, and a number of those type of initiatives. None of these will impact us during the 2016-17 school year.
I'm just going to share my opinion on that. Just because you're saying that it's not going to impact us, it will impact us in a negative way, because they're taking public funding for charter schools that aren't even in our community. So charter schools that will be receiving that funding that may be in another community, they're not present in North Syracuse or our footprint, or really other than possibly nearby in the city. There's really no other place locally that's going to have a charter school. So it in only one way can affect our community, and that's a negative impact.
Good point.
Not to, I just because I feel as though, we need to know that that's, unfortunately, the reality of it is that it is only a negative impact to us.
A couple other miscellaneous things. The proposal does extend the additional 10% on school safety initiatives, and obviously we'll take advantage of that wherever possible. The proposal mentions a waiver process for mandates, and this has been an ongoing conversation for as long as I've been here at North Syracuse, the last 4 years. And I'm just not optimistic that any real savings is going to come from this process. So I just caution folks that might have heard the governor talk about that. We'll obviously be looking at it and looking for opportunities, but we're not optimistic it's going to impact us greatly. The New York State School Boards Association was disappointed in the governor's proposal. The increase the governor came out with was $991 million increase, and the expectations that were set by the speaker and the majority leader were that we were going to be looking at $2.3 billion in increases. So this is quite a far cry from, I think, what folks were expecting. The governor's proposal does include, capping STAR at the current levels and possibly converting STAR from a property tax exemption to an income tax credit. STAR is very important to our local community, and it's something we want to keep an eye on and make sure we're very communicative about. The governor's budget proposal does not contemplate any changes in the tax cap formula. So let me dive in here and just hit the numbers really quick. From the top, you know that our state aid includes foundation aid, and the governor did talk about an increase, and we're looking at about a $376,000 increase in foundation aid, which is great. The next two line items, these line items called excess cost private and public aid, those are to service our special ed population, and yes, we will and have expected increases in those aids due to the increased spending in this area for the district. And so that's good news that we'll be getting additional aid, but we have more than that amount in aid and additional cost servicing our special ed population. Hardware and technology and software, library and textbook, those are calculated based on our student enrollment, actually our WADA, and those aids are slightly changed just based on those population changes. The governor's proposal does include a significant increase in transportation aid. However, we've found over the last couple years, I'll just refresh the board's memory, last year the governor had quoted a number for transportation aid that was about $500,000 too much. We lowered his proposal when we put our budget together by $500,000, and it's coming in exactly where this aid projection is at $8,135,000 for the 15-16 school year. So we're really hesitant to go to the bank with the increase of $8 to $8.8 million. The increase of $750,000 we just don't think is going to materialize. We'll watch as the legislative process goes through, and we'll see what information we can gather about that. BOCES aid increase. We've increased our use of BOCES services during this school year, and therefore we'll get more aid next year as a result of that. But it's aid for services that we are purchasing, glad to get the additional aid, but it will not be able to offset any other general fund costs. Gap elimination adjustment I've just mentioned, it was inconsistent with our expectations, and it's going to be a problem for us if the gap elimination adjustment is not eliminated. We were kind of counting on that in our early view of the budget. Finally, I just comment on building aid. We're still reviewing our building aid. Our building aid is a function of the capital projects we've done over the years, and we're working with our financial advisors, fiscal advisors, to evaluate the building aid and make sure that it's consistent with our debt service, and so we'll have more to come on that. But the overall increase that was proposed in the governor's budget was $1.8 million or 2.8%, and as I've indicated, there's more information that needs to be unearthed before we can kind of be comfortable that these are going to be the final numbers. And we have a legislative process that will go on now through the end of March, and hopefully the legislature will be able to come back in particular, help us with that gap elimination adjustment. So implications for us. I don't want to mince words here. The governor's proposal does not provide sufficient funding for us to have a balanced budget next year. If that GEA is not eliminated, we will have a $1.2 million deficit at a minimum, and that'll result in additional cuts to programs and staff. And so we have a lot to talk about on February 4th when we have the big pep rally here at the junior high. I say pep rally, but it's the legislative session where hopefully we'll be able to express our concerns about the governor's proposal. I've already mentioned about excess cost aid and how that aid will be used to service our special needs population and the BOCES aid as well. and the fact that some of the governor's initiatives just won't provide a lot of assistance for North Syracuse in the short term. The last item I had is just our calendar. So we talked tonight about the governor's budget proposal. We'll learn more as we go through the legislative process leading up to the adoption of the budget, hopefully on time again by March 31st or April 1st. But next budget meeting, our next board meeting, which will be next week, I'd like to talk to the board about the property tax cap, and we'll give you an update on our fund balance and our reserve projections. Are there any questions about anything I presented tonight?
I just have one question, and I really don't. I'm a much more positive person than this normally. But just because you're noting here no changes in tax cap formula. So the way this tax cap works, it's a possibility that we cannot even request an increase.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, the big driver is the allowable levy increase, which is based on the CPI. That was announced last week, and that number will be 0.12%. So if there's an increase, it'll be a nominal increase here at North Syracuse. But we're going through the numbers, and I'll have that for the board next week, so we can look at what the increase will be. But our ability to levy a significant increase in taxes from the taxpayer's perspective, the good news, it will be relatively low. From our perspective, we have to be concerned about adequacy of revenues given the current state aid projections.
Now, wasn't there, I don't recall, to be honest with you, wasn't there a sunset date on that tax cap?
Not that I'm aware of.
They extended it last year.
What's
sure.
the extension to, Mike? Do you remember what?
I don't know if there is another one. They like it so much that they're not going. It's not going to go.
There's no talk of it going away anytime soon.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Our Senator DeFrancisco stated, and he and Flanagan are both on board with that. Assume the Assembly. I haven't heard it from them, but have they?
Yes, yeah. So that's why I was kind of surprised by the governor's budget proposal.
I wasn't surprised by the governor, but
it seems like the legislature is committed to the elimination of the GEA. But at this stage of the game, we got to go with the information we have.
I understand that. Any indication where? I know it's a big assumption at this point, assuming that is I hate to use GEA is eliminated. How does that work in your mind with our tax cap? Is that what I'm asking?
Yes, yeah.
Is it a wash?
It won't have any impact. The GEA or the state aid is not a component of the tax cap formula.
I understand that. Would that help mitigate the inability to?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We've known all along. We've kind of been talking all along that the tax cap would be nominal, or the tax levy increase would be very nominal given inflation. And in our early assumptions about the budget, we've been assuming the GEA would be eliminated and kind of counting on that. And that's why I so strongly say today, if that's not eliminated, we will have a deficit. Any further questions?
I just have a comment. I think we would all agree that last year we did a fantastic job of getting the word out there about eliminating the gap elimination adjustment, getting the community upset about it, getting them involved and the students involved. And I just want to make sure that that message is still going out there, that we still need them to speak up and talk to the legislators and make sure that, we're not going to settle for anything less.
Well, I think one thing that I'm particularly proud of working here at North Syracuse is that the School Boards Association once again has chosen the North Syracuse location to host their big event on school finance, and that's going to happen on February 4th.
And there was about 1,000 people that came to that event here.
Yeah. So hopefully we can.
Several hundred people that went to a very similar event out in Auburn. This one isn't on gap elimination.
No, the next one that they're going to have is to try and get them to equalize how much everyone is getting broadly
funding,
over. It's not. It's not on gap. So, students, I know most of you are out there. They're athletes. If you don't want to see your younger brothers and sisters, please speak to your parents and let them know to talk to the legislators, or we have to start to cut back more on some of these extracurricular stuff you guys do.
So, but, last year it was on gap elimination. We discussed that. That was, people, kind of rallied around that. This equalization of funding has been and will be. Ann Kaufner, who is a former board member, still wears a pin that she received in the early 80s about equal funding. And it's funny because Dr. Rick Timms, who does this presentation, very easily simplifies it in such a form that a fourth grader can understand that fair isn't always equal. So it's not necessarily equal or equalization, but fair funding. So, but the gap elimination, we keep on saying eliminate, eliminate, eliminate. But, really we have to be careful when we explain that to somebody. It's actually a restoration of aid, elimination of the act, but restoral of aid that has been promised to us, then taken away.
You're well said.
I think that's important for us to know. I mean, it's a lot of these kids here have jobs. Your boss tells you you're going to work for $10 an hour. Payday comes, you lose your taxes, and then on top of the taxes, he says, and oh, by the way, you're giving me back $2 an hour. So, you really only are working for $8 an hour when you signed on to work for 10. So, it's money you were promised that has been taken away. So, any other questions for the process, the timeline? Has the subcommittee rescheduled?
We had the problem with the snow day, and we were going to reschedule for tomorrow morning, but there was a problem with people being able to make it, so now we're looking at next Tuesday.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
There are no comments from the audience. If you don't mind, just because it's 8 o'clock, I'd like the participation in government students to come up. We can sign your papers.
You're all set.
How are you, Kara? Good. How's everything? Good. You are done Friday, aren't you, in this class?
Good luck out there.
Friday, your last day this week. Yeah.
If your teacher says that the handwriting is horrible, tell him.
No, thank God. How about you?
I just had surgery on my thumb. So thank you.
Scream on that teacher. Good luck, honey. I'll see you soon. You're welcome.
Right-handed people in wrong hands.
Not as well as it's supposed to be. Pardon me?
What meeting did you attend? This one today. Better put it on there. What is it? I don't know. You tell me. You're here.
Board of Education meeting, January 20th.
So bad. Well, there we go. Already it's gone. Cleared him right up, man.
There you go. We just left.
Sorry, guys.
You're a popular guy.
Is it something you said?
My goodness, John, I almost feel bad for you.
It's called executive session just to kick it
I said almost. I did.
Sit right there in the middle.
Okay, so should I welcome you to the front like I do the other?
Come on up, John.
Yeah, this is good. So, Board of Education committee reports, legislative committee.
We did not have our last meeting because of snow day, so our next meeting we're going to have February 10th.
Big policy.
We did have our last meeting, and it was Monday, the 11th. It was a short meeting. We only had one policy that was up for review. However, we decided that it needed further review, so we tabled it till the next meeting. And our next meeting is February 8th.
Perfect. Okay. Any comments? About game? You don't want to talk about how often? No?
Go ahead.
Okay. No, that's good. I do have to say that I do not understand how Bear Road never wins the shootout when they have 3 basketball coaches in that building. I don't get it. And the wrestling coaches are the ones that are teaching these kids how to do the free throws, and always Lakeshore or Cicero. It always is. But,
Patrick, I just want to say one more thing. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm interrupting. I just want to congratulate the kids. I feel like Mr. Crabtree. That were in the All-County Music Festival. I'm just going to read what it says here. I just said 300 high school students participated in the band, orchestra, and choral performances. They represented city and suburban public schools as well as private and parochial. And we had a number of students who participated. And that's fantastic.
Thank you.
I had a chance to go see Willy Wonka last week at the. I don't know if anyone else had a chance to go and see it. Great job. They had 3 shows this year. Flawless each time. The sets that the kids built and the costumes that the staff made for them, really unbelievable. So it was a really great show, and look forward to see what they come up with next.
And it actually was also pretty neat. Mrs. Tiefel reached elementary student and had
Actually, half the cast were from elementary schools from around the school district and the middle. Kind of a collaboration between all of our schools for one performance. It was really cool. Really interesting to see how they put that all together. And everyone worked really well together, so it was a really great show.
They mostly were Oompa Loompas. Miss Speech?
A couple things. As you know, our community and parent survey is up and running. It will continue online through February 29th. As of today, the count is at 825 survey responses. So start, but we have a lot more. Another reminder did go out today in a text blast. I want to mention that CNS has been chosen as one of 3 finalists in the State Athletics Association 3rd Annual Battle of the Fans contest, and they will be coming to make a visit this Friday night, January 29th, at the boys basketball game against Liverpool, and our intent is to pack the stands and really show that we have a lot of school spirit here to see if we can win that contest. I can't help but mention that girls basketball last week, CNS was number 10 in this week's USA Today Super 25 rankings. Number 10 in the nation. Pretty exciting. Recently, we found out that 4 of our 6 students advanced to the WCNY final round in the spelling bee. Jake Nardoza, 6th grade at Gillette. Delia Fideli, 6th grade at Gillette. Giorgio Awada, 7th grade at Gillette. And Josh Wilk, 8th grade at the junior high. And it mentions here formally that I guess these Gillette students can spell, I'm sure, much better than I can. And I want to also mention that CNS in the North Syracuse Junior High had a total of 13 first-place awards, 5 second-place awards, 12 third-place awards, and 4 fourth-place awards. A total of 34 students have now qualified for the State DECA competition that will be held March 9th through 11th in Rochester. So great showing for our district as well.
We have a lot to be proud of. So routine action items, do I have a motion to take A, B, C, D, and E as a group? Mr. Leone, Ms. Cash as a second. All in favor? That's unanimous. Then the discussion action items. We have an adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting to re-adjourn into a public hearing for the Smart Schools spending plan? Ms. Scanlon, Ms. Cash, all in favor? That's unanimous. So the We're going to call to order the public hearing of Smart Schools Spending Plan at, what time is it? 8:14. And Mr. Keegan, you're up for this presentation.
Okay, thank you. Just to, particularly given the fact we don't have a large audience in attendance, so to be respectful of the folks that are here, Mr. Karula, the public hearing was intended. This is a redo of a presentation that we've already done on December 7th. We did the presentation to the board, if you remember. We posted that presentation on our web since this December 8th, and it's still on our website. And we've conducted a number of different meetings throughout the district and the community to talk to people about our spending plan in hopes of getting comments. And the intention of tonight is to have this hearing, and if people came, they could ask their questions.
Right.
And since we don't have many people, I might just, if it's okay with you, quickly flip through the slides just so that refresh people's memory. It might jar a question for a board member, and that's what I intended on doing, if that's okay. So everybody remembers about the Smart Schools Bond Act 2014, and kind of the good news about it was that it got passed it needed to be passed by the public, and $6.2 million was designated to North Syracuse Central School District. And we need to receive community support and ultimately approval of our plan, which is what this whole process is about. If the board adopts this plan tonight, we will submit it to the Smart Schools Commission and State Ed Facilities Planning in hopes of getting their approval so we can move forward with it. The big purpose of it are things that we're going to be working on: high-speed internet and broadband and wireless connectivity. That's a big thrust of our use of our Smart Schools money. I'll talk more about that in detail. Acquiring some learning technology and equipment, we're going to certainly do that, and I'll talk more about that when you see our plan. And the part of the plan is to construct and enhance and modernize educational facilities for pre-K. We don't have that in our plan yet, but that doesn't mean that down the road, with the remaining balance of the funds, that we certainly could consider that. And then high-tech security features. There are some aspects of that in this plan. These are the allowable expenditures on the left, things that we plan on doing. On the right are things we cannot do with this money, but we have some strategies, particularly in the area of professional development. Our technology committee, I'm really proud of the fact that this committee's come a long way in the last several years. I keep giving the plug to STLE, but that really, we were able to put a group of people together that kind of supercharged that process last year, and I just feel like we're heading in a good direction. But we have a committee that meets regularly and works on the district's technology plan. Each building has a committee, and we're trying to link the building activities with the district activities. The third bullet point here really says it all. This is what people on the committee want to see. They want to see greater access to technology equipment. They want to see connectivity to the internet, and they want mobility and devices. And we hope that through this plan, we're able to do that. I just want to point out the last bullet point on this slide. We intend on using some resources that would have previously purchased equipment in the district. We're going to use Smart Schools money for that, and we hope to be able to put a plan together that we can use some money to foster our professional development activities. We're going to be spending a lot of money on technology. We want to make sure we can support our teachers and our staff using the new technology. This is the mission of our technology committee. You've all seen this before. Again, I'm proud of our committee and the work they do, and I think this mission states their focus well. Most importantly, I just emphasize this first goal. Obviously, we want to use technology to increase student achievement and prepare our students for college and careers, and that is a big focus of the committee's efforts. One of the aspects of the Smart School Spending Plan that I want to just make sure you're aware of or remind you of is that we have to support our non-public schools, and so we're required to loan them technology in an amount not to exceed $250 per non-public student, but it's done proportionally to the spending that we do. If you spend $250 per parochial school student, I think you'd get about $66,000 of the $6.2 million. In this spending plan, a relatively nominal amount is included for parochial schools because it's proportional to the amount of equipment that we're buying. And a big focus of our plan is to do internet wiring for internet, which you'll see in a moment.
But I think it's also important to have this here so people understand that, when parochial parents are coming out to vote for our budget,
Yep.
or have questions about our budget, this answers a lot of the questions that people have. When we talk about textbooks, when we talk about health care, when we talk about things like that they are saying they're not getting out of that tax money that they're putting aside in addition to their tuition, that's an incorrect statement. They don't fully understand that public funding goes to those parochial schools.
And we were very fortunate. We had a meeting with folks from St. Margaret's and St. Rose, and they're thrilled to be included and have the opportunity to be loaned equipment under this plan. Impact on the property tax. I just want to make sure people are aware. No impact on the property tax cap. So this is money that will come in and not impact our ability to levy taxes for other things. Timeline, these are the activities we've conducted up through kind of halfway down the list. You see we had our December 7th meeting. Today, we posted the plan, as I mentioned earlier. We're having our public hearing today, and I'm hopeful that the board will adopt the plan tonight. And then we'll work on completing our investment plan template online. I just want to mention in the timeline process that we are at the mercy of facilities planning and state ed in terms of approving this project. And so we'll work with them, provide them any information that they need, but we can't move forward with the project till we get proper approval, and that could take time. So I put that out as a caveat. Here are some of the things we're going to buy. We broke the investment plan into two pieces since our last meeting. The first investment plan 1, is primarily equipment. You can see, you heard Tina and Chris and I mentioned the Chromebooks and the Google, using Google, and really think there's a lot of possibility or a lot of promise in that. And so we plan on making a fairly large investment in Chromebooks that would provide devices across the district. Project Lead the Way and our graphic arts computers are woefully in need of upgrading, and that's included in this plan as well. We've got these wonderful large instructional spaces like the junior high, and we need to invest in some new projection equipment, and we're working on getting quotes on those and speccing those out so that they can be part of this project as well. Paging systems. Paging systems in our building are old. We've talked about this before. It's a primary piece of equipment in terms of security, and we're hopeful to purchase 3 paging systems in connection with this investment plan. We're going to upgrade our access control hardware, and this will allow for us to primarily change out the equipment. Our own folks will do the work, but upgrade our access control so it's a little more sophisticated and a little more secure. And then we're going to provide technology equipment to the public schools, as mentioned earlier, and that's the last item on that list. And then the majority of our spending at this time is going to be to rewire the junior high, the high school, and Main Street to allow us to broadcast wireless throughout those facilities. And it's quite an expensive undertaking. We're still working with our engineers and architects on speccing out the project, but it's our intention that this will include all the architectural, engineering, contingency switches, access points, and wiring, in addition to some small amount of general construction, building out closets and things like that, so that we can have wireless in those buildings. And our goal, subject to approval, is to get this work done this summer, the summer of 2016. So that is that's all I had to present. Are there any questions on our Smart Schools investment plans?
Questions from the audience?
Yes, a giant step toward our ability to do online testing. One is having the wireless, and 2, having sufficient quantities of these devices so that we can do the testing at every grade level. And so, yes, while there are still details to be worked out for our district in terms of being able to do the online testing. This will provide the infrastructure and the equipment to enable us to move forward with that.
So, I mean, I guess it's kind of important to point out that the Chromebook sets are 30, and the quantity is 114. So it's not 114 Chromebooks. It's
114 sets of 30, right?
Right.
Yeah, a lot of devices. Absolutely.
So that's, I guess, it's kind of important to point that out, as well as, the fact that there are other devices being added in addition
We,
to
as,
those.
as folks know that are in our schools, we have a lot of laptops already, and so between the laptops and the Chromebook devices, I think we're heading in the right direction in terms of being prepared for computer test.
This is just a question, I guess. Do you foresee the laptops at the elementary level being replaced by the Chromebooks?
Great question. Thank you for
the laptops elsewhere?
We don't plan on removing any equipment at this time. So right now, I think you're going to see an environment, or in the near term, you'll see an environment where we have iPads and we have laptops and we have Chromebooks, and we don't plan on removing any of the equipment that's out there at this time. We have not worked out the specific details of assigning this equipment out, and so that's a good question. I don't have a quick answer though. Any other thoughts? Thank you.
Okay, so we need to adjourn the public hearing, correct? So I have a motion. Mr. Leone, Ms. Cash, all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Then we reconvene into the motion to reconvene in the regular board meeting. Ms. Cash, Mr. Leone, all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Now we move into, pardon me? They are much better looking on this side, I have to say. Sorry, Paul, you're the exception.
Right-handed, I'm going to assume that cat.
Honestly, I am like, this is. I apologize.
I gave him 3 Kleenex for crying already.
So, the recommendation is that we approve the Schools Bond Act investment plans 1 and 2. Do I have a motion, Mr. Farfalia? Ms. Cash? All in favor? That is unanimous. Okay. The recommendation to create the Girls Who Code Club at Cicero North Syracuse High School. Do we have any questions about that before we vote on it? Okay. So do I have a motion? George? Mr. Schuster? All in favor? That's also unanimous. We have an acknowledgement of a gift. We are always excited to receive these. Miss Janine Turner donated a new hardcover books to the North Syracuse Early Education Program. The value of the books are approximately $200. The recommended action is that we accept with gratitude this gift. Do I have a motion? Mr. Harrington, show off. And Mr. Schuster, all in favor? That's unanimous. The personnel reports, do I have a motion to take A, B, and C as a group? Mr. Leone, Mr. Marizio, all in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, so we have a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of receiving an update on negotiations with the M&O, North Syracuse Education Association, bargaining units, one legal matter relative to potential litigation, and the review of to review the employment history of 2 individuals with no action to follow. Do I have a motion? Harrington, Mr. Schuster, all in favor? That's unanimous.
Kind of blacklisted.